Do you ever feel stuck, as if the gears of your life have ground to a halt, caught in a cycle of sameness, of quiet despair? Perhaps you're navigating the wreckage of a dream, or a relationship, or simply the gnawing emptiness of a path that no longer feels yours. This isn't just a bad week or a rough month. This is the soul's cry for something more, something new. But what if this very stagnation, this deep ache of being stuck, is not an end, but a threshold? What if it's the fertile darkness before a profound rebirth? The human psyche, in its immense wisdom, has always understood the necessity of renewal, not just physical rest, but a fundamental recreation of the self. The great Swiss psychologist Carl Jung, a cartographer of the soul's deepest territories, recognized this profound human need. He didn't just talk about growth, he talked about rebirth, a concept far richer and more transformative than simple change. In this journey, we will delve into Jung's understanding of rebirth, not as a distant myth, but as a living, breathing psychological process. We will explore the 5 distinct forms it can take, offering you not just understanding, but potent tools to recognize and even consciously participate in your own profound renewal, especially when life feels like a dead end. This isn't about platitudes, it's about unearthing the power to transform resident within you. If you are ready to explore the hidden maps of your own mind, to confront the profound questions of existence, and to find the courage to transform, then you are in the right place. Subscribe to MindMirror and join a community dedicated to the unyielding pursuit of self-understanding. Your journey inward begins now. Have you ever felt an inexplicable connection to a certain historical period, a piece of music from a forgotten era, or a place you've never visited, or perhaps a recurring pattern in your life, a persistent fear or an unshakable talent that seems to have no origin in your current biography? Jung, in his exploration of rebirth, first touches upon an ancient and, for many, unsettling idea, metempsychosis, or the transmigration of souls. While modern Western thought often dismisses this, Jung invites us to consider its psychological reality, how the idea of past lives, whether literal or symbolic, can profoundly impact your present sense of self and your journey through periods of stagnation. Jung notes, according to this view, one's life is prolonged in time by passing through different bodily existences, or, from another point of view, it is a life sequence interrupted by different reincarnations. The core idea here, from a psychological standpoint, isn't necessarily about proving literal past lives. Instead, it's about recognizing that your psyche carries echoes, imprints, and unresolved energies that feel as if they transcend your individual lifespan. This tool of metempsychosis as a symbolic concept allows us to explore deep-seated patterns that seem immune to explanations based solely on our current life experiences. It's the sense that some of your burdens, or some of your gifts, are part of a much larger, older story. The Buddhist concept of karma, though not identical, resonates here. Jung mentions, even in Buddhism, it is by no means certain whether continuity of personality is guaranteed or not. There may be only a continuity of karma. This karmic continuity can be understood psychologically as the legacy of unresolved emotional energies, not just from your parents or ancestors in a genetic sense, but from the collective human experience. Think of it: the primal fears, the unfulfilled longings, the heroic strivings of countless generations. These don't simply vanish. They become part of the psychic atmosphere we are born into. When you feel stuck, could it be that you are unconsciously reenacting an ancient drama, a karmic pattern that demands recognition before it can be transformed? That persistent feeling of guilt, that irrational fear, that inexplicable pull towards a certain fate, these might be whispers from this deeper, transpersonal layer of your being. The deep feeling of being ensnared here is the feeling of being haunted by something unseen, something that binds you to a destiny you didn't consciously choose. So, how does understanding metempsychosis, even symbolically, help you when you feel stagnant? It offers a profound reframe. Instead of seeing your struggles as purely personal failings or random misfortunes, you can begin to see them as part of a larger, meaningful pattern. This doesn't absolve personal responsibility, but it can alleviate a crushing sense of isolation and meaninglessness. It suggests that your current stuckness might be a critical point in a much longer journey of the soul, an opportunity to resolve an ancient karmic debt or to finally live out a long-suppressed potential. The takeaway is to listen to those inexplicable feelings, those irrational pulls. They may be a compass pointing towards a forgotten yet vital part of your own story. Imagine a highly rational scientist suddenly plagued by dreams of medieval alchemy, or a pragmatic business person inexplicably drawn to ancient spiritual practices. These aren't mere whims. They are the psyche's way of bringing forth these older soul parts. Consider the phenomenon of déjà vu. While often dismissed for Jung, it could hint at these deeper transpersonal memories. Or think of individuals who, from a young age, possess extraordinary unlearned skills, musical prodigies, mathematical geniuses. Are these not, in some sense, echoes of a mastery cultivated across more than one lifetime? The tool here is to ask, what ancient story is my life trying to tell, or relive, or finally complete? Beyond the echoes of past existences lies a more personal, yet equally profound, form of rebirth, reincarnation, and resurrection. When you feel your current self is no longer enough, when the old identity feels like a prison, you are, in essence, yearning for a new incarnation of you, here and now. This isn't about a future life after death, but about the death of an old self and the resurrection of a new, more authentic one within this lifetime. How many times have you said, "I wish I could start over," or "I'm not the person I used to be"? This is the language of reincarnation and resurrection knocking at your door. Jung distinguishes reincarnation necessarily implies the continuity of personality. As a rule, reincarnation means rebirth in a human body. Psychologically, this means your core I-ness, your ego form, endures, but it can inhabit new bodies of experience, new ways of being. Then comes resurrection. This means a re-establishment of human existence after death. The change may be either essential or non-essential. It may be a carnal body, or the corpus glorificationis, the subtle body, in the state of incorruptibility. This points to a radical transformation where not just your circumstances, but your very essence can be renewed, purified, made incorruptible by outworn patterns. The death Jung speaks of here is symbolic. It's the death of old illusions, of limiting beliefs, of a constricted ego. Have you ever gone through a crisis, a job loss, a painful breakup, a health scare that forced you to shed an old identity that was a death? And if, from that crisis, you emerged with new insights, a deeper understanding of yourself, a more resilient spirit, that was a resurrection. The Apostle Paul's transformation on the road to Damascus is a classic example. He died as Saul, the persecutor, and was resurrected as Paul, the apostle. This wasn't a mere change of opinion. It was a fundamental recreation of his being. The existential terror here is the fear of this necessary death. We cling to the familiar, even if it's suffocating us. We fear the void, the unknown that lies beyond the death of our current self. But Jung's insight is that this death is precisely what makes resurrection possible. The old must be composted for the new to grow. The subtle body, the corpus glorificationis, can be understood as your truest, most luminous self, freed from the dross of past conditioning and fear. When you feel stuck, when you yearn for a fresh start, understand that your psyche is calling for a form of reincarnation or resurrection. This means having the courage to let parts of your old self die. This could be a limiting belief, I'm not good enough, a toxic relationship pattern, or a career that no longer feeds your soul. The takeaway is that you can be reestablished, you can be transformed. The tool is to consciously identify what needs to die within you and to actively embrace the process of becoming, even if it feels like stepping into the unknown. This isn't about passively waiting. It's about active participation in your own becoming. Consider the artist who, after years of producing technically proficient but soulless work, has a breakdown, a dark night of the soul. They stop painting, they confront their demons, and then they re-emerge, painting with a new depth, a raw honesty, a power they never possessed before. That is resurrection. Or the individual who, after a devastating loss, doesn't just get over it, but integrates the pain, learns from it, and emerges with a deeper compassion and wisdom. They have reincarnated into a new, more profound version of themselves. The Christian story of Easter is not just a historical event. It's an archetypal map of this inner process available to every human soul. Perhaps the idea of past lives or a grand resurrection feels too distant, too abstract. But what about renewal within the span of this individual life? This is what Jung calls renovatio, or rebirth in the strict sense. How often have you felt a deep need for a refresh, a reset button for your life? Not necessarily a complete overhaul, but a vitalizing infusion of new energy and perspective. This is the call for renovatio. Jung defines this: rebirth may be a renewal without any change of being, inasmuch as the personality which is renewed is not changed in its essential nature, but only its functions or parts of the personality are subjected to healing, strengthening, or improvement. This is crucial. It's not about becoming someone else entirely, but about restoring, healing, and enhancing the self you already are. The tool here is the understanding that even bodily ills, or periods of creative block, or damaged relationships, can be healed through rebirth ceremonies, or psychologically through processes that symbolically enact this renewal. This renovatio can also be an essential transformation, a total rebirth of the individual. Jung gives examples like the transformation of a mortal into an immortal being, of a corporeal into a spiritual being, and of a human into a divine being. Think of figures like Faust in Goethe's work, whose journey is one of constant becoming and transformation, or the transfiguration of Christ, a moment of divine revelation within his earthly life. These aren't just grand myths. They point to the psyche's capacity for profound shifts in consciousness and being. The profound weariness that renovatio addresses is the feeling of being worn down, depleted, or having lost vital parts of oneself. It's the ache for rejuvenation. Jung suggests that this renewal often comes through magical means, not literal magic, but the powerful transformative experiences that arise from the unconscious when we are open to them. This could be a powerful dream, a sudden insight, a deeply moving encounter, or a period of intense inner work. When you feel depleted or that parts of you are ailing, Renovatio offers the hope of healing and strengthening. The takeaway is that you don't always need to discard your entire self to find renewal. Often it's about re-energizing, realigning, and healing the functions of your current personality. The tool is to actively seek out experiences that foster this engaging in creative pursuits, spending time in nature, deep self-reflection, or even symbolic rituals, personal or collective, that mark a new beginning. You have the capacity for inner renewal, a continuous becoming, throughout your life. Consider the individual who, after a period of intense stress and burnout, takes a sabbatical. They travel, they meditate, they reconnect with nature. They return not as a completely different person, but as a renewed version of themselves. Their energy restored, their perspective broadened. Or think of the power of forgiveness in forgiving another or oneself. There's a profound healing and renewal of a damaged part of the psyche. Even simple acts like spring cleaning or starting a new hobby can be small acts of renovatio, clearing out the old to make space for the new. We've explored personal rebirth, but what about the times when transformation seems to happen outside of us? Yet we are profoundly moved and changed by witnessing it or participating in it. This is Jung's fifth form, participation in the process of transformation. Have you ever felt deeply altered by attending a powerful ceremony, a moving concert, or even by being part of a collective effort that achieves something extraordinary? Jung explains here the transformation is brought about not directly, but indirectly, by participating in a process of transformation which is conceived of as taking place outside the individual. He cites the Mass as a living example, where Christ is sacrificed and then resurrected in the transformed substances, and this rite is not a repetition, but the original, unique, and eternal act. So, the tool here is understanding that by immersing ourselves in symbolic rituals or shared powerful experiences, we connect with archetypal energies that can induce a state of divine grace or inner change, even if we are not the direct subject of the transformation. The Eleusinian mysteries, Jung notes, conferred the grace through the certainty of immortality, where this wasn't about intellectual belief, but about a profound experience of the eternal cycle of life, death, and rebirth, symbolized by the divine drama. Think of the power of mythic storytelling. When we are engrossed in a great epic, the hero's journey becomes, in a sense, our journey, their trials, their deaths, their triumphs. We participate in them and are often changed by the experience. The feeling of isolation this addresses is the sense of individual powerlessness. When we feel stuck or overwhelmed as individuals, participating in something larger than ourselves, something that embodies transformative energies, can be incredibly healing and empowering. It reminds us that we are part of a larger human story, a collective psyche that also undergoes cycles of death and renewal. When you feel stagnant, seek out experiences that allow you to participate in transformation, even indirectly. This doesn't have to be a formal religious ritual. It could be engaging with great art, music, or literature that embodies archetypal themes. It could be joining a community effort for a cause you believe in, It could be simply bearing witness with an open heart to the cycles of nature, the death of winter, the rebirth of spring. The takeaway is that transformation is not always a solitary struggle. The tool is to recognize the power of shared symbolic experience to catalyze your own inner shifts and connect you to something timeless and universal. Imagine the feeling of being part of a vast crowd singing in unison at a concert, a wave of shared emotion washing over you, or the quiet power of a Quaker meeting, where silence itself becomes a vessel for collective spiritual experience. Even watching a deeply symbolic film like Tarkovsky's Andrei Rublev or Bergman's The Seventh Seal can be a form of participation in transformation as you journey with the characters through their existential struggles and moments of grace. These experiences remind us that the sacred drama of transformation is constantly unfolding, both within us and around us. So, the call to rebirth when you feel stuck is not a singular demand, but an invitation to explore a spectrum of transformative possibilities, from the ancient echoes of metempsychosis, urging you to recognize the karmic threads in your life, to the profound personal death and resurrection of your old self, from the ongoing vital renewal of renovatio within this very existence, to the shared power of participating in rituals and stories larger than yourself. Carl Jung's wisdom doesn't offer easy answers, but a profound map. The tool is not a quick fix, but a lifelong commitment to listening, to your dreams, to your deepest stirrings, to the archetypal stories that live within and around you. For in that listening lies the power to unstick yourself, to die to the old, and to be continually, miraculously reborn. The journey is yours. The potential for transformation is infinite. Which of these forms of rebirth resonates most deeply with your experience right now? Have you felt the stirrings of a past self, the death of an old identity, or the profound renewal that comes from within or through shared experience? Share your reflections in the comments below. Your story is part of this collective journey of understanding, and if you are committed to a life of deeper self-awareness and transformation, subscribe to MindMirror. Together, let's continue to explore the vast, often challenging, but ultimately liberating landscapes of the human psyche. Our next exploration will delve into the enigmatic power of your own shadow. You won't want to miss it. The insights and interpretations presented in this video are based on the psychological theories of Carl Jung and are intended for personal reflection and exploration. They are not a substitute for professional psychological or medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you are experiencing significant emotional distress, please consult with a qualified mental health professional. The journey of self-discovery is unique to each individual, and the application of these ideas should be approached with personal responsibility and discernment.